Yankee and the Brit, yes, Yankee and the Brit. One is a genius, the other's a twit. On the radio, the genes have been spliced. The Yankee and the Brit.
Good evening, Billy Lord.
Good evening, Donna Bradley.
Hello. How are you doing?
I'm doing fairly well. Can you hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine.
Beautiful. That's good news.
So how are you? What's going on? Anything exciting?
Yeah, a couple things. Are we on the air right now?
Yes,
We
sir.
are.
We don't waste any time.
Oh, okay, all right. Usually I get queued in and they tell me we'll be on in a couple minutes. But
Well, I was about to put on another tune. Your name popped up on the phone, so we just hit answer.
The women must love you.
Well,
Your timing is
that's
perfect.
That's cool. No, I'm glad that it was. That'll be the first time ever my timing was perfect, so that's a good thing. But yeah, I just finished actually sitting right now in my music room out here at Camp Lord in Bon Aqua, Tennessee, which is about 45 minutes southwest of Nashville, and we're way out in the country in Hickman County. Johnny Cash actually had a home out here that he would go to write, and we're out in the middle of nowhere pretty much, but within close shot of the city. So it's real nice. About 80 some odd acres of farmland out here, and
nice.
I always tell people that Hickman County is more Nashville than Nashville, at least from a country music standpoint. So I'm sitting in my music room right now with my guitar on my lap. I actually just finished playing every single song in our new set list because we're getting ready. We're getting ready for a lot of things. We're getting ready for new music. We're getting ready for summer tour. We've got some big shows lined up that we'll kind of announce first on your show. But yeah, lots of good stuff going on. Wherever you guys want to start, that's good by me.
It's beautiful out there where you are. Do you know where Dixon is?
I'm about 10 minutes down the road from Dixon.
I used to live in Dixon and White Bluff up there, not far from. It's right off of 40.
Yeah, I'm right near there, and I love it out here. It hasn't gotten too fancy yet, and that's what I like about it. It's real simple out here.
Boy, that's nice. Can't imagine it's still quiet out there in that neck of the woods. I figured by now Nashville would have crept out there and took it over.
It's getting pretty close. We're getting crept up on out here in Hickman County, but I kind of got pushed out here. When I first landed here in Nashville, I was a little bit closer to the city, and when our lease came up, we kind of got pushed, kind of forced out. The economy has done that. We've got something crazy like 500 people a week are moving to Nashville. It's the fastest growing city in the country.
Wow.
Yeah, and so it's just getting nuts, and people keep pushing further and further out. But like I said, we got a long dirt drive that leads back to our house, so it's always quiet, and it's good for us because we can open all the windows and doors and turn it up as loud as we want and kind of rock it out. We don't bother anybody except maybe a few cows out in the pasture.
Now that's country.
That's about as country as it gets, and it's funny too because we were looking at houses and band houses, and we had a choice between two houses, and one of them was almost brand new and had granite countertops and cathedral ceilings, and everything was white and very very pristine. And then the other house was a kind of a brick ranch style house, and it's all wood paneled inside, and the sinks are avocado green, and there's that kind of mustard yellow in the house. And my drummer hadn't seen the house, and he's like, "Well, you choose." And I said, "Well, I'll choose," but it's basically a choice between Hunter Hayes and Waylon Jennings. I said, "What do you choose?" And he says, "Waylon." I said, "All right, then we're going out to the country, boys."
There you go.
And here we are.
Are you from Tennessee?
Oh no, not at all. I really consider Bristol, Rhode Island, my hometown up in the north, but I'm from originally Oregon.
Oh,
and,
don't feel bad. I'm a Yankee.
I don't feel bad. I don't feel bad at all. But I kind of think that I've been here and there and everywhere in between in my life, and I'm grateful for that because I've seen almost the entire country, and I think I've just met about every kind of person that you could think of, and been in almost every situation. So I mean, right now Tennessee is home, and I honestly don't see myself leaving. I really don't. I have really no desire to go anywhere else. I especially love the land that we're on. There's a really good vibe here for me, and the writing has been great since I moved here. We've kind of stepped up to another level, and I've been kind of taking a social media hibernation while we kind of put the pieces in place for the next, big push of new music and all the branding and imaging and all that good stuff. And a lot of people have been wondering if I'm okay. So this is one of the first radio interviews I've done in a little while. And everyone listening can know that we're doing better than okay. We're doing really well. And I couldn't be more excited to bring people some new music.
Very good. Are you signed with Nashville, or are you independent?
Well, when I came to Nashville, I signed with I signed a management deal, and I came here based on that management deal, and that turned out to be pretty much a fraudulent management deal, and it kind of put me in a bad spot in a lot of ways, and financially was one of those ways. And so my entry into Nashville was pretty unceremonious, and it ended up I had to really go fiercely independent and literally knock on doors down on Broadway in Nashville just to try and get some gigs down there. And it's if you want to go to the most highly competitive place for music in the world, and you go to Nashville, and there's a handful of places to play, and there's about 10,000 people wanting to play them, so it could be very, very challenging. And we were very lucky that Layla gave us a shot down on Broadway. And the first night that we played there, when we got on stage, there were about 6 people in the bar. And within about 45 minutes of us playing, we had the place packed. And that's saying something down on Broadway, because people come down to Nashville and they're kind of window shopping with their ears when they're walking down Broadway. They're listening as they walk by each bar to hear something that kind of catches their interest. And we were really happy, and so was Layla. That first night that we played down there, we packed the bar, and bartender said she hadn't seen bar receipts like that in a long time. So I was real proud of that, and we ended up playing there several weekends, and then from there we ended up playing the White Horse and Opryland and just everywhere in between. And but then I took a break from Broadway because it wasn't getting me the audience that I really wanted, because people come from all over the country. They come to Nashville and they go down Broadway, and then they go home, to Ohio or Minnesota or wherever they're from, and their friends say, well, who'd you see down there? And they say, oh, we saw some great cover bands down on Broadway. And I don't mind playing covers. I enjoy a lot of them, and when we pick our set, I try to pick songs that I love playing. But the objective and the goal, moving to Nashville, is for people to hear my original music and to write and create more of that original music and develop as an artist. And Broadway was not the place for me to do that.
When did you start playing music?
Not long ago. It has been this is year 5 for me.
Oh.
And that's not a long time, as you know, in music. And I've been told by most people you got to put at least 10 years in, and I feel like we're really ahead of the curve because we work so much harder than most people, and the focus has really been there for me. It was something that I committed to very early on, and I just believed in. I feel like the writing was coming to me not from a place of hey, I want to look at market research and figure out what people want to hear and write songs around it with teams of people. For me, it was very genuine, and it came from a real place as inspiration, and I think it's kind of divine inspiration. I was just hearing songs and just going with it completely freely, and I think that's why I've been moving ahead quicker than most. And when I got to Nashville, it kind of changed my sensibility as a songwriter, and I definitely started thinking more about breaking through into radio, and so the approach to writing songs is a little different, but it's still very inspired. I did my first co-writing out here, which is something brand new to me, and I've been very, very, very fortunate to be working with some of the best writers in Nashville. Kirsty Manna, who wrote Austin for Blake Shelton, she and I wrote a duet together recently. The list is so long, and you're going to hear songs coming up on my next album. We've got people that have written for all the top musicians in Nashville, all the top hits that you're hearing out there, and Susan Giancona, Kevin Rowe. We got songs with Clay Mills, who's written a bunch of songs for all the biggies, and Ryan Griffin, and the list, Nancy Moser, and the list goes on and on, really. So we've been working hard. It's been very quiet. I think people are wondering what's going on with me, and that's really been it. It's been in a time of development. It's been a time of working with some of the best writers in Nashville. We've been recording with the best musicians and session players in Nashville, the best studios with the best producers, and when we do, it's taken a while, but when the music comes out, I think people are gonna hear the difference. Just the selection of the songs has been much more deliberate, and I have really no doubt. I'm about to head in the studio on May 5th, and I'm doing about 3 more radio singles, and these are songs that we handpicked. And our plan is that we're gonna give people new music starting in late June, and we're just gonna keep giving them new songs about every 6 weeks right through the fall, and just keep on going. We've had singles that were done and ready to go, and I signed a new management deal with Holly Hutchinson, and she's just phenomenal. She's been in the business for a long, long time, and she's a heavy hitter in the business. I'm very, very fortunate to be working with Holly, and we've got some songs that Holly said, let's just hold those back for now because they're going to be big songs for you. We want the timing to be right, so it's going to be a process over the next year. I think people are going to see everything unfold, but we're trying to plan those pieces out very carefully.
Well, you got quite a few followers in the chat here. Sean Becca Kettner, she says Jacqueline says hi, or Jalen says hi, Billy. She can't wait to see you this summer. And Janet Coates and Nancy Sullivan Wood, quite a number of them in here, and they're just tickled to death. Let's see, somebody here said, let's see, where is it? He's a handsome guy.
Well, thank you. I don't know who that was, but I really appreciate them saying that. But those names that you mentioned, and there's so many people, and the real unusual thing I think about this career of mine is that I've traveled across the country on a motorcycle, and I wrote National Anthem on that trip, 12,000 miles over 6 months, and I met so many people. And I can tell you right now that I've got, I'm at the limit on Facebook. I've got 5,000 people on Facebook, and sometimes people ask me if they can, get a friend request from me on Facebook, and I tell them I'm over the limit. And occasionally I'll say, let me see if I can delete somebody, and I can add you. And it's a challenge for me to delete any one of those 5,000 people because I know everyone, and I know that's hard to believe. But the people who know my music, the people who are close to what I've been doing and building over these 5 years, I know that they feel a closeness to me because they know me personally, and that's something that I think is the most beautiful thing about making this music is the people that I've become friends with and I've met along the way.
Well, obviously you're touching a lot of souls. Nancy Sullivan Wood, she's a fellow Rhode Islander.
She is. Nancy, I remember I played at a Barnes & Noble out there, too, and got to spend some time with Nancy and her daughter, and just, wonderful people. And, that's been my experience along the way is, we watch a lot of times in the press, and, we just hear a lot of negative things about people. And in my experience, traveling across the country is that, the American people, are so kind-hearted and open and warm and welcoming and friendly. And
is it your music that takes you across the country, or is it your work?
It's the music. This year we're gearing up for a tour, and we start up in New York, and I'll be headlining Harley Rendezvous up there, which is about 10,000 people strong, one of the coolest, best motorcycle rallies in the country. And we'll be starting there. We'll be kicking off there on the 24th of June. We're heading across the country and going out to ending in Sturgis. We're playing, headlining 5 nights there at One-Eyed Jack's from 9 p.m. to 12, and we've got a ton of shows in between. So,
let's see. Janet Coates, she said you're one of the nicest people you ever meet, and Sean Becca said the most down-to-earth guy. They were talking about what you looked like. When we first made contact with you about coming on the show,
I said you look like the man from the Diet Coke advert. If you get on YouTube and have a look at type in like Diet Coke, it's 11:30, and you see this really good looking man wearing a pair of jeans, and he opens a can of Diet Coke, and all the ladies working in the office rushed towards the window to see the man that's been mowing the lawn guzzle down a can of Diet Coke. And we were just like, he looks like the man on the 11:30 advert.
And now, if I may finish what I was saying, because my wife so rudely interrupted me
sir.
over a nice-looking chest. I was going to say the first picture I saw of you, and you've probably heard this, is that you look like Billy Ray Cyrus.
I've actually heard that quite a bit.
I bet.
Which is it's kind of funny, that they have the same first name. I don't see it, but I do hear it a lot, and I'll take it as a compliment.
Let's go with the Diet Coke break, man.
I told Donna, I said he looks like Billy Ray Cyrus. As long as he doesn't sing "Achy Breaky Heart," I'll be all right with that.
I may just wear a mullet though. You can never predict what I might do with my hair. I rocked the mullet in the '80s, so I know it's a good look for me. So maybe I'll bring it back.
I'll stop playing your music.
Probably most would about that. It's tough enough. It's tough enough to get the stations to play your music. I had that experience this summer. I released Netflix and Chill, and this past summer, and I went across the country again on a motorcycle. Did 5,000 miles, and I went to 20 different radio stations. Played the song live, and I talked to program directors across the country, and it's just such a challenge to get them to play the song. And the resistance to Netflix and Chill was the title, because it's a little bit provocative, and especially in the country music world and in the middle of the country, and they were just afraid to play the song. And it didn't matter that to me it was a love song, and it was very sweet natured, and it was not an offensive song at all. But it was just the program directors didn't want to play the song. So we're kind of gearing up, because a lot of them they loved the song stylistically, and they just said, we can't wait to hear what you're going to bring us next. So we've got a batch of songs right now. I think it's going to blow it wide open.
Well, let me ask you just a little bit more about that, because I was in radio in the '80s, and there was still a little bit of payola going on and that kind of thing, and it all disappeared after that. But when you go into a radio station, you ask them about playing your music. Why won't most of them play anything new like this? I mean, do they have issues with that, or are they so formatted that they have to stick to what they have and just refuse to break that?
Well, I've been told that if I was in a different genre of music, that it wouldn't be so hard to get played. But for whatever reason, country is so popular right now, and I think the idea of celebrity has become so popular in America that everybody's throwing their hat in the ring. And what that means is that program directors across the country, they're really challenged, because they're getting every month they're getting about 200 new songs to choose, to play, and they might only have 2 spots to choose. And you're up against, new music from Luke Bryan and all the big guys. You're up against, label guys and, people who have, you say that, payola went away, and, I know that it's not talked about quite as much, but I know that it's still prevalent in the industry. I know that it still happens, and it's just, the way of the world. So I think what really needs to happen is, and this is what we've been working on, is bringing the best music that we can to the front and letting the music speak for itself. Letting the songs, letting the fans take the music and making it big. And I think if we do that, if we get the response and we get the outcry, from the public that they want to hear it, I think that'll help us break through. And the other thing is, you always hear nowadays is they say you need $1 million to break a song, and I don't want to believe that that's true, and I refuse to believe that it's true. I know it's hard. I know the odds are against independent artists like myself, but I hope to prove that theory wrong. I don't think that you need to just spend money.
Well, what's your thoughts, number one, on the independent stations like us on the internet and many other internet radio stations? I mean, have you approached any of them, or you don't see that there's a gateway there at all? Because I mean, you have so many followers on Facebook.
I love you all. I think you guys are the real radio stations. I mean, you've got 2 companies like Clear Channel and Citadel that basically own the radio waves in the United States. And,
right.
If you're not already in the Billboard, top 40 Billboard, you're probably not going to get played at all. And everything is pre-programmed, and it's all market research. There's gone are the days of the DJ who discovers somebody and breaks them. I mean, there's a few out there, Bobby Bones here in Nashville, who I hope to get to, and even the Highway, is another big one. On the Highway, they'll break new artists. But even those, they're usually, big machine type of artists. So, the people like you that are out there, you guys are the rebels and the people stirring up the pot. And, artists like me, we love what you guys are doing, and we support that entirely. I always try to get my music out to those types of internet radio and the shows. They're just a little harder to identify.
That's the trouble. If we put ourselves out there as much as we can, but anybody that doesn't know us don't know that we exist. Basically, people very rarely go to radio as much as they used to. We rarely see people sharing our page. So unless they know that we exist in the first place, you've got no chance of us, of hearing us. But, we keep getting independent artists on like you, and you guys share your pages and people come in and listen, and hopefully it'll help you and it'll help other artists as well. I mean, we have a different artist on every week. So that's our hope, that it will help you guys and it'll help us get ourselves out there. And
what do you think about Facebook Live? Do you do any of that at all?
I've done Facebook Live in the past. I'm not a huge fan of it, and I know people who've had some success with it, but, right now, time is like the biggest commodity in my life, and I never have enough of it in a day. And if I have to choose, between rehearsals or writing a business plan or a marketing plan or even writing a song or working on a co-write in the time I do have, I always choose to do that. I feel like at the end of the day, I need to put forward an amazing album. I need to put forward singles that are something extremely special. And so, I try to channel my energy and focus it into that because, I know that's where the magic has to happen. And I've kind of disengaged a little bit from social media for that reason, is because I just want to focus on work. And, I think I spent a lot of time in the past, promoting myself rather than promoting my material rather than perfecting my material, if that makes any sense.
Makes plenty of sense.
And,
it's got to be tough though. You're like you have to be like the jack of all trades, don't you? I mean, you have to promote yourself, write the songs, make the songs, go in the studio. Your brain never shuts off, does it?
It really doesn't. And last night was one of the first nights in a while that I actually got to go to bed, and it was exactly that. It was just such a restless night's sleep because my brain is always moving, it's always going. But again, in the past, like my first two albums, I'm learning as I go, and I've learned an awful lot with the first two albums. And there's some great songs on there, and the production value is really good. I worked with Lou Rubino at Fish Tank Recordings down in St. Augustine, Florida, and I'm really proud of those. And I'd actually love to redo those albums at some point because I've learned a lot about singing and I've learned a lot about writing.
What would you
and
do
even
different?
Production. I just think I would spend a little bit more time. I was in such a rush to get those out that we recorded both those albums, I think, in about 2 days. And, it was just, when I went into the studio to record those two albums, I went in with a scratch track, which is basically me singing the song acoustic, and then we would build the song, over that acoustic. And now what I've been doing is, I didn't even know how to sing those songs when I sang them. And I know this doesn't make a lot of sense to people, but because I wrote the song, but when you write it on the acoustic guitar, even if you hear it with a full band in your head, you go in and you create a full band track, it's different. Sounds different. You approach the vocal different. And, the songs themselves never had enough time to develop. They're good songs. They could have been great songs. And that's my regret, is that now I take a song and, we'll write it. And I say we because I never had co-writers before. And now, I'm working with these great people like Susan Giaccona and Kevin Rowe, who are going to be very prominent on this album. And, I take a song now and I bring it to the band and we flesh it out more. We take our time with it. And the main thing is I sing it live over and over and over again. And the more you do that, you start to develop those nuances and the phrasing and learning your own song and developing it and making it, a good song into something really great. And then you have, like I've got Colin Boughton on drums, I've got Andrew Davis on bass, Stephen Cheek, Andrew Davis on guitar and Stephen Cheek on bass. And those guys all bring ideas to the table too, and like, hey, let's try this, let's do that. I never did that before, and it was partly because I was really kind of shy about my music. I was almost embarrassed to bring it to people. I know, again, some of these things are going to sound strange, but it was very personal, and I was very new at it, and I was very unsure of what I was doing. And now, I'm starting to slowly open up and share my ideas more freely and accept ideas from others. And I think, what's happening is that the music's becoming much more evolved.
Susan Giacono says, hey, Billy, thanks for the shout on the album cuts. I love working with you.
Yeah, Susan's been absolutely amazing to work with, and again, everybody brings some strength to the table, and Susan has brought a melodic sensibility, that has opened my ears and my eyes and my vocals up, and that's just so important because I think my producer Ryan now says I have kind of a melodramatic flair for things, and I've brightened up my vocals a lot. I've changed to where I'll do a song that's fun and has a sense of humor as opposed to just all these kind of weary road songs that I used to love to do so much.
Well, it's always a reminder of how far you've come in your career. Never forget those times.
I also wanted to say that you were talking about you're always learning, and we are too as far as the internet goes, because we just can't seem to find what it takes to get people to come and listen to all these great independent artists that we have. We've had somebody different on the show every Saturday for months now, and it's just, it takes everybody, of course. You, the artist, has to share and let people know you're going to be on here, and we share it constantly, and we make like the little posters and everything for that, but it's just, we're always learning what people want, and it's just like taste changes as fast as you can change the station, and it's so hard to keep up with some of that.
Yeah, I trust me, I get it. And, this little, when I got off of my radio tour last summer, I kind of went into a little bit of a quiet phase, and, it's surprising how quickly, people forget you, how quickly you slip from their consciousness. And, I'm right now gearing up so that never happens again. But it's taking a lot of work to get there. But you're absolutely right. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of persistence. And you're refining your own product with your radio show.
Yeah, it's like you have to be in everybody's face every minute of every day. There was just so much going on, not just with Facebook, but with the internet, radio stations, country artists trying to get out there, and Facebook Live, and the list is endless. And it's just like, if you're not in everybody's face every day, like you said, they just kind of just move on. It's not like they don't like you or anything, but there's just so much to take their attention away.
We sell T-shirts and things, and the amount of people that say, "Oh, I want one of those. I want one of those," and I'm going to order one right now. And that's probably the last that you hear of them until maybe 2 weeks later, and then they'll say, "Oh yeah, I meant to order a shirt off you." It's like things just move so fast. People scroll down Facebook and things just move so fast all the time. If you're not in people's faces, you're not at the top of the mind, should I say.
Well, I feel your pain, and I watch a lot of artists, on my social media, and I'm on it less than I ever have been in my life because, it's impossible to keep up with everything, and even more so, like I said, I'd rather spend the time on my craft right now and planning and getting my music ready. You're right. The internet is the best thing that ever happened, and it's the worst thing that ever happened.
Agreed.
Because everybody can do what you're doing or is trying to do what you're doing. Everybody's vying for the same attention, and I think tools like Facebook have become far less powerful than they used to be at one time. Even the way that those algorithms work and who sees your post. I used to have so many more people that were seeing my posts than I have now. And if you get to the point where you're posting too much, people will unfollow you and just shut you off because it's just too much too, and they get overwhelmed. So my focus right now is less on that and more on the craft of what I do and getting better at what I do. And I try not to worry about anybody else. I don't even listen to a lot of music anymore because I really want to focus on being an original. And I think that's the only way to do it is everybody, they try to do what everybody else is doing. and then no one's successful because everybody's doing the same thing.
It's kind of a catch-22 because you need to practice your craft and get better at what you're doing and make sure that, you're happy with it so everybody else will be happy with it. But how can you do that and still, be out there all the time?
Yeah, I think it's less about being out there all the time and more about the quality of what you put out there when you are out there. And, I see that every single day, with so many artists, they feel compelled to post all the time, and so that they water down what they're posting, and they put themselves in spots a lot of times, and I think it compromises the quality of what they're putting out there. And it's been very hard for me to resist that urge, too, and say, you know what, I mean, a couple of times I put things up, and before I clicked that post button, I just said, you know what, that's not good enough, that's not interesting enough, and, my goal is to just create enough of those types of information that really are engaging and interesting instead of trying to manufacture those things.
Well, you're obviously going about it the right way because, number one, your music just sitting here listening to you talk and then hear you sing is like two different worlds, and your music is just friggin' fantastic. And yet to hear you talk, it's like, where does that voice come from within that guy? It's unbelievable.
I know, 1 minute you're mowing the lawn and sipping down your Diet Coke, and then the next minute you're wowing us all with your music.
Well, thank you. I appreciate it. I hear that an awful lot because I think it was growing up in Oregon, it's a very soft-spoken place, and people always said about me, you're very soft-spoken, you're very mild-mannered. But I'm obviously, when I come to perform, it's, there's a lot going on inside, and I hope that I bring that into the music, and a very, creative mind, and I love to use it. I feel very blessed that I have the chance to make music and that there's an audience for that music. And I'm really excited about the next year. We got some like I said, I've been getting very impatient because I want this new music to come out. I want people to hear what's next.
Hey, Billy,
Yes.
Elizabeth Pillsbury says that her and Caesar are listening and they say hello.
Hello, Caesar and Elizabeth.
They're from Fall River, Massachusetts.
Yeah, they're just up the road from my hometown in Bristol, Rhode Island. Very dear friends.
And Nicole Maxwell's listening tonight as well.
Aw, Nicole Maxwell is a dear friend as well, and she's part of an incredible organization called Leslie's Week, and everyone should check out Leslie's Week and what they do and support them. And I've been fortunate enough to play a benefit for them, and we're looking at other opportunities to do benefits for them in the future and support Leslie's Week, and we're even looking at something in Nashville, doing a show up here to raise some money for their cause.
Let's go back just a little bit. Now, you said you've been doing this about 5 years or so, is that right?
That's right.
Now, when actually did you learn to play guitar or get into music overall? I mean, were you a little kid?
Well, no. I didn't start until I was 40 years old. And,
really?
Yeah, and so
40. Rewind a minute. You're 40 years old.
I'll be 46 in August.
Oh my gosh!
Wow, you're
people. Yeah, I get that a lot too, and people are always telling me, especially my parents are always telling me how that I'll never make it, and the odds are so stacked against me, and you're too old. I hear that all the time, and I don't really pay that any mind at all.
I don't believe that for a minute.
I don't either, honestly, especially not in the country music genre. I mean, if you look at, all the biggest guys are in their 40s. I mean, all of them, Eric Church and Keith Urban, all the best, because, and you got guys like Willie, doing it, at their age, and it's because, country music is about sincerity, and it's about being true, and it's about revealing emotions that I don't think you can fully understand at 20.
Billy's an old fart, said David.
David Kahn says Billy's an old fart.
David Cohn is right. It's funny because when I was younger, a lot of times people would say you're an old soul, and now I think I've kind of grown into that. I'm right at home. I feel real at ease with my life. And you mentioned or asked when and where I started playing, and I was kind of every guy. I mean, I was raising a family and working a management job, and I was making really good money. And in 2009, the economy hit the wall, and I was in print media. And print media at that point was it hit the wall with the economy, and I couldn't replace the income I was making. And a lot of people who follow me know my story, but to to keep it short, I ended up working homeless in New York City, and during that period, that's when I just started teaching myself how to play, just to really pass the time. And then I just started hearing songs, and I really learned to play by learning the songs I was hearing in my head. I never really played covers until I moved to Nashville at all. I heard songs in my head, and I figured them out on the guitar, and then I'd bring them to my producer Lou in St. Augustine. And like I said, Lou Rubino was, you know, just a huge person in moving me forward and opening my eyes to what the possibilities were. And
Wow.
then I just kept playing. I kept playing. I kept writing. I kept singing. You know, a lot of the people who were listening have donated money to the campaigns to make my first 2 albums, and you know, I'm forever in their debt, and I can't tell you how grateful I am that you know, their $20-$30 enabled me to make this music to get me to this point. And now I feel like, you know, I'm really charged with this responsibility to become the artist that, you know, they were so excited to support.
Well,
and
there's
so, you know, I carry that weight.
There's a gal with a great smile in the chat. Do you know a Debbie Stevens?
I might know her.
You might know that.
She
one
says,
is.
"I love my brother Billy. Thanks for putting him on your show."
Well, you know, Debbie is right now probably about 40 feet away from me, and she's just been an angel in my life. And you know, she and Janet Coates, you know, I've got an angel on each shoulder, and the two of them, and you know, they take care of me, and they support me, and you know, they've just been there in every way that you know, a friend could be there. And they're family, and we've kind of adopted each other. And you know, sometimes the family that you adopt, you can be even closer with than your blood relatives.
Oh,
and
definitely.
And there's Krista Burris, says he's one amazing artist. My son and I love his music. His CDs are on repeat in my car.
I see now again, you know, Krista and her son. You know, when you say these names, you know, I light up because you know, I know all these people and I love all these people. And again, I don't want to let them down, and that's why, you know, I work so hard right now, and I dream, you know, so big, because you know, I know that they're looking and saying, you know, we know that you have it in you, you know, to do this. And so I know I have it too, and I just it's a lot of hard work to dig down and find it. And I'm just excited for them to hear the new stuff.
There's
honestly.
a lot of love
Can't
floating
wait.
around in here tonight, I'll say that.
I get to feel that all the time, and that's why, you know, like I said, I've been a little quiet on my social media, and I know a lot of people reach out and they're worried about me, and I said, no, you don't need to worry. I'm just getting it done, you know, and trying not to be distracted. And I think that when we bring this new round of music out, that people are going to be so excited, and they'll know that it was worth the wait.
What music did you listen to when you were young and in short trousers?
Well, you know, it's a funny thing, because when I grew up in Oregon when I was a kid, you know, it was Hee Haw and the Mandrels, and it was Smokey and the Bandit.
Yes, sir.
And it was, you know, there was a very strong country vibe, and then as I started to get a little older in the '80s, we moved to the Northeast, and you know, I became, you know, the biggest metalhead kid around, the long shaggy hair, and you know, I loved those bands like AC/DC and Ozzy and Metallica, and you know, that was my passion, really, you know, growing up, is being a fan of that music, never thinking that I would ever be an artist. So kind of went from those early beginnings where it was country, and I always mention Joni Mitchell too, because she was just something that I heard her sing help me when I don't even know how old I was, but I was in my parents' Datsun station wagon. It came on the radio, and it just struck me in such a way, you know, that her voice and the song, and I never forgot how I felt when I heard that. And so she's been a great influence of mine, just because I admire her so much. And she's so different than anything else that I listened to. Like I said, I was just a metalhead, you know, growing up, and you know, when I got into corporate life and everything, I didn't listen to music quite as much. And when I started playing it, I wasn't listening to anything at all. And so I felt like what I was getting as far as songs go, it was just very divine, and I just went with it. And the biggest criticism that I had in the first 2 albums is that stylistically, people didn't know what I was. You know, the album got called one of the best. The first album, American Music, got called one of the 10 best rock albums of 2012. So it was considered a rock album. But from that album came On a Summer Night, which became the first song that ever got played on the radio for me. And all of a sudden I was kind of branded as a country artist, and I didn't mind that so much. And then I went out on the motorcycle, and I spent those 6 months going just about everywhere across the country and listening to a lot of music. And on that album, National Anthem, that I wrote on that road trip, you hear everything from New Orleans style Cajun Creole music to folk to Delta blues to hard rock, and it's all over the place, all over the map, that album. And I think what's happened since then is when I got to Nashville, now I think all those influences, instead of being on different songs, all those influences are on every song. So now that there's a distinct style coming together that I hope is very unique when people hear it.
Hey, you've got a Penny Chartley in the chat room.
Penny! This is great. It really is.
You've just grabbed a listener from Australia too, Indy Rosser, who has been on the show with us, and he does quite a bit of music of his own too. He's in here. He says he's listening, but out of the truck getting ad blue, whatever that means. Some kind of Australian talk from that knobby-kneed old Aussie.
Yes. There's also Laura White listening. There's also Ted Williams listening. There's also Jeff Holmes listening. There's quite a few people in the chat room tonight.
This is fantastic. I love it. I love it. I do. And if there's anybody out there that I haven't met yet, I will be willing to bet that we meet soon. And I love and embrace meeting everybody and hearing their input. And I love hearing people's stories. And I can't tell you how many people that I meet that inspire songs in me. I love to listen to them because everybody has such an amazing story. And that's where the greatest songs come from. If I haven't met you, drop me a line and we'll get you when we're out on the road sometime. I
was going to ask you also where some of your inspiration comes from for a lot of your music. I mean, is it all from heart and soul, or just kind of you just bump into things and all of a sudden it's like that's a song? Well,
it on the first album, it was really, I was kind of just fighting for survival at that point, on just about every level because, I had a life that I was comfortable with in a way that my parents raised me, and there were certain expectations, and, when everything just collapsed like that, I lost my home to the bank, and, I really started over from scratch again, and that changed who I was as a person and what was important to me. And in the first two albums, really, I hear a lot of me trying to make sense of what happened. I think a lot of people go through in their life when they come on really hard times and they don't understand it, and they raise a lot of questions about God and faith and why me and what did I do. So I think a lot of the songs that you hear were a reaction to what happened to me, and I'm very also tied into my relationships. I think a lot of my music comes from loss of love or newfound love. And I think the first two albums were a little bit darker, but everything that I write is definitely very personal to me. And then when I got to Nashville, I started writing a lot brighter music. Because that's just where I was emotionally, and I was happy to write that kind of music. I wanted to bring that kind of music. I think my ambition was that people would get an album that is a companion of theirs that they love hearing, that brightens their day and kind of shines a light on what's beautiful about life. And that's really what my goal was coming to Nashville. And then I ran into some more heartache, and I ended up writing a couple breakup songs, and I think those songs are actually some of the best songs that I've got coming, are those breakup songs. But, I also have, new love in my life, and I think the real enduring kind, and that's right now, in my writing, that's kind of where I am right now, so I think people will hear that on some new tracks as well.
Sean Becker says, Jalen wants to write a song with you, Billy.
Oh, Jalen she's my other Carly Joe Jackson. Carly Joe sang the duet Still the Evening Sky with me, and Jalen and I have sang together a lot of times on Facebook video chat. But she's a beautiful young soul, and she has a beautiful voice, and I love singing with her. She actually sang with me live. We were playing at a Harley-Davidson dealership, and she came and stood right next to me, and we sang Steel Evenings to Sky together acoustically, and it was
cool.
You know, those are some of the best moments for me as a musician in my career, are those personal moments, and they're so hard to get to. I can't tell you. So when they come, they're you never forget them.
Well, Indy in Australia, he says, you were talking about you'd like to meet the people and hear stories and things. Well, that's one reason we do this. We love you guys. We love the stories. But Indy says you better learn to swim if you want to meet him.
I'm a good swimmer, and I know how to surf, too. You can tell Andy. Listen, I'm down. I've wanted to go to Australia for the longest time because, you know, we've been played on Australian radio, and, people have said, we'd love to have you over there. And some people I grew up with ended up relocating there, and, we've kind of batted that idea around for a while. And so I would think that at some point we'll make it out to Australia and we'll do a tour out there. But, we've got to break through, with this American audience a little bit more and get this a little bit more excitement going on and some bigger shows, and we can afford to do those kinds of things too.
Well, I think maybe if you keep an eye on the news and you wait just a little longer, maybe what's his name there in North Korea can cause a couple tsunamis with his bombs there, and you could surf all the way to Australia.
Maybe. I don't know. I think we might have better luck with fireworks on the 4th of July here than what he's doing over there.
Yeah,
he can't seem to make it work over there. Thank goodness.
And Nicole Maxwell, she said, come back here and write music on my dock.
Well, I would love that. Nicole's out in Maryland, and we stayed at her home, Colin Boughton and I. And that was honestly one of the most beautiful places I've ever stayed. Certainly inspiring. They've got a dock right out there in the Chesapeake Bay area, and it's just lovely. I could definitely do some writing out there.
Oh, it's beautiful around there. I've been all over the country. I drove truck for about 20 years, so there isn't a place you haven't mentioned yet that I haven't been.
Maybe you should come on the motorcycle next time. We'll go revisit some places.
I used to have an old Harley when I was a young buck, and I'll tell you what, I wouldn't get on a bike now if it was the last thing left to ride.
Yeah, I hear that from some people, and it's a funny thing, riding that motorcycle, because I didn't ride a motorcycle until I went out on the road on National Anthem to write that album. I'd never been on a motorcycle before, and it was just something I said, I'm going to go across country, and I guess I have nothing to lose at this point in my life, and this is how I want to experience it. And the first time that I got on it, because when you get your license, they take you're in a parking lot the whole time, and you're like going around cones, and there's no traffic, and nobody's going fast, and you're on a 250, and the first time I got on the bike, and I was literally going to go on this 12,000-mile journey, I took a short run just from the Harley dealer to the hotel, and I got off the bike, and I was like, I'll never get back on that thing again, ever.
Yeah,
I was scared to death.
Orange cones don't talk on the cell phone, for one thing.
No, they don't. They pay attention. They stay put where they're supposed to.
I know, right?
But it was that same kind of fear that was also kind of the exhilaration of riding. And, I'm well aware of the dangers of riding, but for me, I don't think that there's anything more freeing for me personally, and I write like crazy on the motorcycle. I mean, I write. There's a song called "Feel the Loss" on National Anthem, and I wrote that whole song on a ride on A1A from St. Augustine to Daytona Beach, and that's the way it works for me. Is that it's a place where my mind is clear, and part of that is you've got every one of your senses is heightened when you're on that motorcycle, because you know you're exposed, and you know that you have to have your wits about you in every direction, and it makes you feel more alive. You're in kind of this elevated state as a human being when you're on that bike, or you should be. I know a lot of people that aren't, and I've ridden a lot of miles. Did the 12,000-mile trip, did the 5,000-mile trip last year, and I'll probably do another 3,000 or so this summer on the bike. And people always tell me I'm a very cautious rider, and I do try to stay that way. I've been very safe and very fortunate so far. And like I said, I've got angels on my shoulders anyway. I believe that. I believe that that these people in my life that have come into my life, and there's many of them. I mentioned Jenna and Debbie, but there's so many that I could name.
I say that to Donna. I say that to Donna quite a bit when we're driving, even going somewhere to do some work or something. I'm like, you know what? You got to watch out for the other guy because they're not watching out for you, and that's about the only way to survive.
It really is. I mean, even when you're in a car, it's that way too. But yeah, I really it's become a passion of mine, and people are always like, if you become really super successful, and a lot of people are like, you're gonna become super successful, what are you gonna do? Man, I don't really see myself doing anything different. I really love writing. I love playing the guitar. It's not work for me. If I have a choice of when I have free time, the guitar's in my lap or I'm on the bike.
Well, just be safe while you're out there riding around.
Well, I appreciate that. I'll definitely do that because I still have so much more music to make, and the weird thing is I've written probably somewhere around 200 songs in the last 5 years, and a lot of them I don't expect will ever be on an album because it's not really radio friendly, a lot of it. And people close to me know, they've heard these songs. I call them my pocket songs, and I'll pull them out of my pocket when I'm sitting around a campfire or we're by the pool or we're having a barbecue, and I'll just start playing them. And for the people close to me, they say that those are their favorite songs. So I want to be successful enough and be around long enough just so that I can record all those songs so that they're there, so the people who need to hear them, whoever they may be, even if it's, just one person that needs to hear it at the right time, that it's available and it's there for them to hear. So, that's probably my biggest ambition.
Hey, Billy.
Get it all recorded. Yeah.
What are you going to sing for us tonight?
You want me to sing for you?
Yeah,
I don't know how that's...
What are you going to sing for me?
I hadn't even thought about that, but I don't know how I would do this. I could. I'm sitting here with my guitar on my lap right now.
Oh, bring it on!
Can you hear my voice though? I thought
we can hear you. Come on, all the ladies in the chat room are waiting for you
Hold
to
on.
sing to them.
Check how. You get the guitar going. Hang out this time. Looking for someone. Little midnight, sunlight, jackets looking over right. Something I can know. Sure feel right. You may try. Honey, me high, those pretty blue eyes. When you put your lips on mine, kiss on mine. You say, I'm a little crazy, that's okay. You can say anything you like, kiss on mine. Everything kind of rusty. It's just take our time. Don't know where to go. I can read the sign. Your eyes, your touch, feeling it day. That's what it's worth. Come with you, come with. Oh, girl, I can't get enough. You can try. Hide me behind those pretty blue eyes. When you put your lips on mine, kiss on mine. You can say, I'm a little crazy, that's okay. You can say anything you like, kiss on mine. You can say anything you like, kiss on mine. When you put your lips on mine, kiss on mine.
Hello, awesome.
Still there?
Yes, we sweetheart, and the crowd went wild.
I don't know, how that sounded because I've got you on speaker on my cell phone, so I can't imagine that the sound quality was quite wonderful. But that's a song that Susan Giaccona and Clay Mills co-wrote, and just a privilege to play. I love that song, and the really cool thing about that one is that I played it acoustic for you tonight, but when we went into the studio, Ryan Rospo, he said, we got to put a little Billy on this song. What do you think? And I said, all right, let's rock it up. Let's see what happens if we rock it up. So when people hear the recording of the song, they're not going to believe what they hear because it's a hard rocking song now, and it's got a lot of energy and a real cool vibe to it, and it will be one of those songs that we will release to radio coming up this year.
Wow.
We'll make sure you get us a copy of that.
Yes, send it over to us. We will make sure we play it on here.
I absolutely will. We'll have probably a new song for you about every 6 weeks. So
Wow.
I'd be thrilled if you guys are playing. The hardest thing right now, honestly, is picking out which songs to release to radio and in what order and when, and try to think about the time of year that they're coming out. There's a song, I think we're probably going to lead with Kiss Don't Lie, and then there's a song that's a real cool summer song called Love That You Love That, and it just feels so good. This song, it makes me happy, when I hear it, and I just think people are they're gonna play it nonstop this summer once it comes out. I just have that gut feeling, and then when we go and summer starts to fade, there's a song called Hollywood Founder. It's basically about lost love, that somebody chooses fame over love, and we'll release that at the right time of the year for that. And then in the heart of fall, I'm hoping that we release a song called Rise that I wrote and recorded last year. That was supposed to follow up Netflix and Chill, and again, we just decided that we were going to hold it back and wait, and so it'll be a while before people get to hear that one. But we try to make some logic to it and make it good, the right time of year, the right emotion for people.
So where do you see yourself in 5 years, Billy Lord?
I see myself, pretty close to where I am right now, living, I want to stay here, and I'd actually like to stay here on this particular piece of land and make a little life here, and I'd like to be married, and I'd like to have some animals roaming around the land, and I'd really like for not much to be different, except that my music has reached a much broader, wider audience, and that I have the opportunity to continue to make a new album every single year until I'm no longer breathing on this earth. That's really all I could really ask for out of my life, is just the opportunity to keep making music, and that's a lot harder than people think it is. It's an undertaking to make an album, financially, emotionally. It's a very difficult thing to do, and I don't think people can fully appreciate it unless they do it or they're in a relationship with someone doing it, because I can tell you from experience that, I've got someone who's very, very patient with me right now, and I know I'm not an easy person to love at the moment, because it's just a very difficult thing when you have to make music, when you have to put it out there, and it takes every ounce of energy as a person to do it.
Do you make your living just off of music now, or do you have another job?
I was making my living off of music until I got off of my radio tour last year, and then I had to take on a full-time job. So right now I work full-time, and I get home at night around 10 o'clock, and on a typical night, especially lately, because Colin, my drummer, really got on me a while ago about not playing as much when I started working, and that was just kind of, I'm just tired. So,
right.
But now it's like I'll be up, I'll get home and I'll grab a quick bite, and then we'll spend about 4 hours on music.
Do you mind if we ask what you do?
Right now, I work as a freight manager for a retail, like a retailer, big box retail store here in Fairview, Tennessee, and it's quite a departure from the corporate life that I used to be living, for sure. It's a very physical job. I mean, I unload freight and I stock shelves and I do inventory, and every morning when I pull into that lot. I kind of have a little laugh with myself, but it's paying the bills and giving us some stability right now. But it makes things even more challenging when it comes to completing the album. But it's a necessity, and I have to say that I'm very content right now. I'm very happy. It's a lot of hard work. I wake up in the morning. That's when I typically do the business side of music. I'll do my emails. I'll do my planning. My booking. Whatever I need to do from a marketing, merchandise, design standpoint. Oftentimes I'll do writing in the earlier part of the day, and then I go into work at 1. And like I said, I get home at 10, and I do music until about 2:00 in the morning, and that's become the grind for me. It's kind of just a nonstop thing, and I typically only have Sundays that I consider to be kind of a down day, a quiet day, and I'm in church, every Sunday, and I have a church here that I love, Fernvale Community Church, and that's become a big part of my life and an important part of having faith in what I'm doing and knowing that I need to be patient and just keep working hard and let the story unfold as it's supposed to.
Well, whatever you're doing, I would say it's the right thing because everything just seems to be coming together. You have a great bunch of followers, and I thank every one of you for tuning in because, of course, without the listeners, we have nothing. That goes for you and us, I mean, if you don't have listeners, you don't have followers. Pretty simple. But your music is fantastic, man, and just thank you so much for spending some time with us. It's been great. And I got just a few questions I'd like to ask you, and we'll let you go back to what you were doing.
Sure thing.
All right, number one, what's your favorite word?
My favorite word is probably faith. I named my motorcycle Faith, and I love the sound of that word. I love what it means. I mean, you could talk on faith and what it's about, and it's everybody will have something different to say about it. But for me, it just became a really important part of my life after I lost everything. When there's so much uncertainty, all you have is faith. And I named my motorcycle Faith because that's basically what I've been riding on now since all that went down.
And what's your least favorite word?
No.
You're not the only one. What turns you on?
My girlfriend. Her smile and her eyes. I always tell her that she only needs to look at me, and it's just her eyes. That turns me on. And probably beyond that, music turns me on. And I hope that, I can turn some people on too with mine.
I think you're doing a great job at that. What turns you off?
I can tell that one's kind of easy for me. What turns me off is pretense. I just want somebody to be real, and I want them to be simple. And I don't need. I'm not a label person, and I don't need to be seen at the cool clubs and all that kind of stuff. It's like that turns me off when somebody thinks that they need to impress me with things that are not important. So that's what turns me off.
What sound do you love?
The guitar. Of course, I love the guitar. I love hearing it. Every time I pick up the guitar, I automatically do a G chord and I strum it out, and it's just I can feel my blood pressure start to lower, and I feel good. So that's the sound that I love to hear.
What sound do you hate?
I think the sound of construction. Because when I was in New York, there's this clanging that I would hear all the time, and when I hear it, it makes me tense. So it's that clanging of not like somebody's building a house and I hear a hammer or a nail. That doesn't bother me, but I would hear these huge cranes like banging these steel beams into the ground, and that always just makes me feel tense.
What's your favorite curse word?
Can I curse on the air? Is that all right?
You can say anything you want.
This is
on
internet,
here.
my friend. You can be yourself.
I'm like everybody else. I mean, everything is fuck. Like, I mean, everything. I mean, because it's so, you can use it for everything, right? I mean, it can be, oh, fuck, or it can be like, fuck, like, that's great, you know. It can be an adjective, a verb. It's the most functional word in the English language, and yeah, I mean, I use it.
Meanings.
Are you one of those guys?
Yes, it does.
Are you one of those guys that uses it like a comma?
I actually use it more than I would like to, and you know, in certain company, I try to curb that, or when I'm doing interviews with folks like you. But you know, when I'm around children, I tend to let that one fly before I catch myself, or the parent of the child is like, "Hey, Billy, you might want to just shut that off a little bit." But
what do you say?
Yeah,
fudge nuts.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's a tough one to censor because it's just, you know, it's part of the language.
What profession other than yours would you like to attempt?
I think I've thought a lot about this, and I'm very disenchanted with our government. And I was a political science major back in college, and I pretty much have like tuned out government and politics from my life because I'm kind of disgusted by it. But I've often also thought that if I was ever blessed enough to be successful and I was a recognizable household name, and popularity is obviously important, that I would like to get back into public service and do it for the right reasons. And you know, I feel like money is just driving everything. You know, I would just love to be, you know, in a role where I could influence and change that. Make people's lives better, you know, especially the lower to middle income people and the people who are working so hard. So I think that would probably be the next profession for me as I get older.
Don't you want to be a truck driver?
I did want to be a truck driver when I was a kid. That was my David Cohen, who may still be listening.
Yeah, he's the one that asked.
We were talking about this. I was just at Denny's with him earlier today, and we were talking a little bit about this. And you know, when I was a little kid, that was my dream job. I just wanted to be a truck driver so bad. And you know, we actually in our set list we have Eastbound and Down, and we mentioned Smokey and the Bandit, and I just thought that that's pretty much the coolest thing. But I'm going to let David Cohen be the coolest person, and you know, if I ever have to do anything, I always want to do music. I don't think that I could ever not do music. I want to do that as long as I'm able. And but if I could ever just make things better in government, I probably would try to do that.
Well, I drove for 20 years, and I'll tell you what, it can be a great life if you really live it the right way. But it can also be miserable if you don't.
I've often thought it'd be good for me because I would have plenty of time to write, you know, and think.
Well, there's the caveat right there, because sometimes you have too much time and you overthink things, so it can work both ways.
I could see that happening too. I try not to be an overthinker. I'm not an overanalyzer. You know, I try to keep things simple. I think that's the way to approach things.
What would you do if you woke up tomorrow as a woman for the day?
If I was a woman?
That's not part of the questions.
If you woke up as a woman for the day, what would you do? Randy's questions are getting so boring, I thought I'll spice
I got
them
two
up
more
a bit.
questions and we're done, and you come up with that.
Well, you've got to answer the question now.
Oh wow, that's an interesting one. I never posed that question to myself before.
I might add that to my list.
I mean, you might have noticed this. I like to put people on the spot.
I think I might. I mean, why not? I probably would get a Brazilian wax just to see how painful it was.
Oh my gosh, glutton for punishment.
Why not? You know, hey, listen, it's only for a day, right?
So there's all sorts you could do as a woman, and you want to go and get pain.
Well, I always say, I'm like, I don't know how you guys do that. That's just some crazy stuff. So
I know what I'd do, and I'd be out making a lot of money real fast.
Uh-oh.
Two more questions. Yeah, I'm going to kill
This is fun. You guys, as many questions as you want. I'm enjoying this.
You wait till I get a hold of that Brit after the show.
David said, play with your boobs.
What did you say?
Dave, he said, play with your boobs.
Oh, my goodness. I know that's what David would do. I know that for a fact. And I might do a little of that, so.
We'll have to play the boob song for him when we get done.
He might get kicked out of Denny's for doing it, though.
Maybe, but maybe not. You know, Denny's is pretty. I'm sure they see everything in Denny's.
I've seen some things over my time.
Okay, husband,
number 9.
back to your boring
Number 9.
question.
What profession?
I would definitely. I mean, now that David's opened that door, I would definitely like to just see what it feels like to have sex as a woman. I mean, you always wonder that, how it's different.
Got to be better than a wax.
Curiosity. It's what?
I said it's got to be better than a Brazilian.
Yeah, I would think it would feel a little better. Yeah.
Okay, back to your boring question.
Oh, you don't mind now?
No.
Well, thank you very much, my dear. What profession would you not like to do?
That's an easy one for me too. I would not want to be an accountant. I do not want to crunch numbers. That would be no fun.
I don't blame you. Number 10, the last one, the main question of them all. If heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I'd like to hear him say, "You got off to a rough start, but I knew you could do it." I think that's what I'd like to hear him say.
Nothing wrong with that. How cool would that be?
And that's the truth. When I was in church on Easter Sunday, I sang an acoustic version of Merle Haggard's song "Lord, Don't Give Up on Me," and I can't believe that the Lord is still with me here after all I did in my youth. And I think we all go through that when we're younger, and it's just that's unconditional love right there. When you can go through all that, and and still at the end of the day, your faith is strong. And I know that I've made a lot of mistakes, and I know that I've wronged some people that I wish I hadn't wronged, and there was a point at which I decided that I would let those regrets go, and I'd let the weight of those regrets go because it wasn't really doing me anything good. But that how I handled myself and other people moving forward was the most important thing. And so that's why I say that. I would like to go up there and have them say, you got off to a rough start, but boy, you sure made up for it. And one of the things that I always say that if I'm ever successful, and I talk to Janet Coates about this one a lot, is I really have a desire to help other people. I don't need to to pad my bank account, and I don't need a big house. I don't need a big car. I don't have a lot of needs, but I would just really like to help others that do have some real needs.
Well, it seems like if you can forgive yourself, you're off to a good start.
That's a tough thing, it's harder than people think,
Oh, I know all about it.
Beat themselves up silly.
I couldn't agree more. I have issues with that myself, but we all do, I think.
Yeah, and I think that's a real moment. I mean, for me, it happened on the motorcycle, and it happened I was driving up the coast of Florida. It was a moment for me. I mean, I don't know if it's a moment for everybody, but I had left. I started my motorcycle trip for the writing of the national anthem in Clearwater Beach, Florida, and that was the last place that I had vacationed with my family. Before my ex and I split, and it brought back a lot of memories for me. And there's a very long ride up that Gulf Coast where it's not very pretty at all between Tampa and until you reach, I think it's St. George is the town where you start seeing the water again. But in that ride up there, I was beating myself up pretty good, and I reached a town called Panacea, and which is interesting because obviously Panacea means cure all, and I just had an epiphany that it was time. It was time to move on, and you can't move on if you're still carrying that weight with you. And I actually pulled the motorcycle over to the side of the road because the first time that I saw the ocean, or the bay, or the Gulf rather, I saw the Gulf, and it was just beautiful turquoise water, and the sun was just glistening down on it. I pulled the motorcycle over, and I wrote this song. I actually was smoking at the time, which I don't do anymore, but I rolled up a cigarette, and I sat with my guitar on my motorcycle, and I wrote a song that's called Roll Away, and it's about that very thing. Just it's the past. It belongs behind us. That's where it belongs, and that's where it should stay. And in that moment, I smoked that cigarette. I wrote that song, and then I went on my journey. The second half of my journey.
Well, it's been said that you're a simple man with a ginormous dream, and I'm telling you, I think you're well on your way. And thank you again, over and over, for letting us play your music, for coming on and sharing your stories with us. And it's been awesome. I mean, this is very comfortable to be able to talk to somebody like you and just chit chat away and have a little joke. And we have so many people come through, and And sometimes they're not, our sense of humor doesn't always ring with them, but we still love them all. And, of course, we will be playing your music on a regular basis. And when you get some new stuff, make sure you send that over here, too. We'll take care of that. And if you have anything to add, I did want to ask, when's your next CD coming out?
Well, I'm in the studio on May 6th, and we're hoping that we get a single to radio in late June before I go out on tour. And we're going to release probably about 4 singles or so, and then an album to follow that probably in the latter part of this year. So we're going to keep people in new music for a while, and hopefully keep that ball rolling. Hopefully we'll build up the momentum we need to keep it rolling. But I just wanted to thank you both for being so gracious and having me on and giving me so much time and asking some tough questions, like my favorite swear word. I like that.
And what you do if you woke up with a vagina?
Yeah. Exactly. I mean, I can tell you that that's the first time and probably the last time I'll ever be asked that question. So you have always
never think about it again.
Leave it to the British.
You guys really. I mean this with all sincerity. I really appreciate the time. I'm grateful for the interview. I wish you guys the most success possible, and I hope that we can do this again over and over again through the years.
Absolutely.
As things, time passes and progress.
You are welcome to call anytime.
Together.
You can call anytime you want, any Saturday night especially. We don't even need to know you're going to call. Just ring us up if you have something to tell people. And, and we hope everybody shares the page. And Donna will have this interview all cleaned up probably in the next few days or so. And it'll be out. You're putting them on YouTube?
Yeah, I put them on YouTube and then on the Facebook page.
So people will be able to come back and listen to that or keep a copy of it, so they can hold you to all the things you said you're going to do once you get a vagina. So, that should work out pretty good. They're going to say, remember, and, of course...
he will be smooth, ladies and gentlemen. He will be smooth.
Of course, David's going to want to hold it to you, and he's going to say, remember, you got to play with your boobs, so, you want to keep that in mind. But thank you.
David would be the one to drive me to the waxing salon, I can tell you that right now.
Hey, that's a nice-looking truck you got there, by the way, David. That's pretty sharp. Like that. Thank you very much again. We got another one of your songs to play here yet. It is, let me look over here again. It's Steal the Evening Sky featuring Carly Joe. You want to talk about her real quick, what that's all about?
Well, Carly Joe, it's an interesting thing. I was down in Florida, and I was about to start, my journey on a motorcycle, and I saw Carly Joe doing a little acoustic set, and I heard her, and I just thought, wow, there's something absolutely magical about her, and they're just certain people, and they're special. And Carly Joe is one of those people. And when I heard her, I had no idea that she had been on America's Got Talent because I don't watch any of those shows at all. I had no idea that she was a finalist or anything about her. I just knew that there was something in her voice that was ringing true to me. And we became kind of just Facebook friends, in that first meeting. And then I went on the road, and I remember I had written about 25 songs for National Anthem, and I was wrapping up, and I was in the studio, or about to go in the studio, and I just felt like I needed a love song. And I don't know why, but I could just hear Carly's voice in my brain, and her voice really triggered this song, and then it just started happening. And I have this dobro that I named Ola May, and I picked up that dobro, and I wrote Steal the Evening Sky, and Carly Joe came down to record it, and it's it was magical. She's such a special talent, just a beautiful human being. She actually just came to Camp Lord about a month ago, and we sang some songs in our living room together. And I think Carly Joe and I will most definitely record again. In that session for National Anthem, the last song on the album is called Do It Again. And that song, Carly Joe did Steal the Evening Sky, and then she was going to come back in to do some more. I asked her to do some backing vocals, and she was sweet enough to come back and do that. And the night before that she came back and do the backing vocals, I was by the pool, and I wrote this song, another duet called Do It Again. And Carly Joe had never heard it. And she walked in the studio, and I said, "You want to do another song?" And she was like, "I'm game, I'm up for it." And so she had to learn the song literally while we were recording it. So when people give that song a listen, Do It Again, they can keep that story in mind. And that will forever be one of my favorite songs because it just happened so fast and it was a moment.
Well, could you have somebody send us a few songs off of that National Anthem album? I tried to find it. I couldn't find any that I could download off of there. Well, I don't need to be able to download them. I can record them right off of there and save them, but, I didn't want to do it without asking either if I did find some, so I kind of gave up.
I will send you over some MP3s of some songs that are near and dear to me, and you all can play them if you'd like. But
Yeah.
I'll definitely send them your way.
Absolutely. There's no liking about it. I would love to have it, man. That just fits right in with everything we do.
Awesome. I appreciate it. I appreciate you guys. Thank you so much.
Thank you a million times over. You take care of yourselves. It's been a pleasure, believe me, and all of your listeners and your fans and followers and everybody else. Thank you very much for tuning in. If you'd click the like and share button, boy, that would be awesome. And you can expect to hear Billy's songs here
And
over
Randy
and over.
is going to play my version of the Booby song for David in the chat room
We will.
very shortly.
Right after Billy's song, Donna sings the song Boobs, and we'll play that next.
'Cause you gotta have boobs.
Couldn't ask for more.
No, make sure you stay around long enough to hear it. You'll love it.
Absolutely will.
Thank you very
guys
much.
Again.
Thank you very much, my friend. We appreciate it. You take care and good luck.
Good night.
Happy Saturday night. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Your choice for country music, the RTM Radio Network.
It's Billy Lord, Steal the Evening, featuring Carly Joe on the RTM Radio Network with the RTM Radio Nitwits.
Yanki and the Brit.